Well, we're going to kind of put a positive buzz on it this year. We're going to have a lot of fun with this little jig this year. Charlie, if they go over, play the song for the speakers that go over this year. Let the crowd hear it. And that makes you want to dance, don't it?
Thank you, Mark. You all know the verses. Sing along. If you don't, maybe you can hum. If you can't hum it, just fake it. That's what I'll do. Stephen Foster's song, My Old Kentucky Home. Oh, the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. 'Tis summer, the people are gay. The corn tops ripe and the meadow in the bloom, while the birds music all the day. Weep no more, my lady. Oh, weep no more today. We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home far away. The young folks play on the little cabin floor, all merry, all happy and bright. My twilight eyes down and the knocking at the door, and my old Kentucky home far away. Weep no more, my lady. Oh, weep no more today. I will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home far away.
This is Jerry Pippin, Fancy Farm Picnic. That's the name of our show. It's named after the way they deal politics in Kentucky. They show up for huge outdoor picnics for a reasonable price. I think $8. You get you choose quite a menu from ham to whatever, all Southern foods, and it draws a crowd. Interestingly enough, this time Mitch McConnell is getting not only a strong Democratic challenger, but also Matt Bevin is a Tea Party person, and he's running hard against McConnell as well. So that's something dynamic we need to keep in mind when we talk about Kentucky politics. One thing we want to stress here is the fact that McConnell is not necessarily all that popular in Kentucky. He's kind of like the rest of the nation. He's got his boosters, people that support him, his base that likes the good block politics that McConnell does, and then the other part of the people are turned off, and the same thing in Kentucky. And in Kentucky, I have several friends there, including Coyote Calhoun, one of the top disc jockeys in the country. He's won the more country music awards than anybody else, and Coyote tells me that Louisville, where he's been for the last 25 years, has actually got a strong liberal streak in it. And so I take him at his word. So I think that McConnell is really taking on quite a battle here. Now, of course, he's counting on what he always does, and that's, frankly, a little dirty politics, causing ruckus at rallies and pitching things out, innuendos that may or may not even be close to the truth. And he's counting on that happening again. The main thing he's doing is running against Obama, but still yet that was not good enough to get the Tea Party. My old Kentucky home is going to be a very sweet home for the campaign money, as the Democrats smell victory here when they can maybe defeat Mitch McConnell, the minority leader in the Senate. And McConnell, of course, has a reputation for playing, well, a little dirty, frankly. And he's famous for getting together groups to shout people down at rallies and things like that. But, of course, this woman is an unusual lady. In many ways, she's a real fighter and a real scrapper. Now, I have lots of friends in Louisville, and they always tell me, more than once I've been told by them, that Louisville is not as conservative as you might think it is. And they think that actually the liberals, the paper there is run by liberals, and it's one of those things where McConnell was in trouble the last election, and it looks like he probably will be even more difficult territory for him when it comes to trying to win that race. Now, we can't count Mitch McConnell out. He has made a career of bashing Obama and done quite well with it with his base. Now, the question will be two questions, actually. The first question is that base big enough to defeat the candidate and keep his seat, or is the fact that there's a liberal streak in Kentucky politics, despite the conservative reputation of being in the South, would come into play, and perhaps a Democrat will take that seat. Remember, last time, it was a fairly close race in which McConnell was sweating bullets, as they say, at the end. Now, one thing that jumps out at me more than anything else is we're talking about an election that's going to be held in November of 2014, and here it is, 2013, not even September yet, and we have a heated race there, as you can listen. And when you hear the sound bites and the examples of what happened at that rally, you'll see and hear for your own self that the race is pretty fired up for both candidates. And so when we talk about whether or not Mitch McConnell can survive, he's not a guy you can count out. So I'm not prepared to make a prediction that he will lose, but I will make this prediction that's going to be a very close race, and I feel in my gut that perhaps he will lose, because his tactics, which he's been using for the Republicans in stalemating, stalling, standing around, gridlock, will probably come back to haunt him. Now, this is just my guess. I've been wrong before, and I've been right at some times, so we'll have to see. But I think it's one race that we're going to have to keep looking at and seeing how it progresses. Remember, it's a long time yet before Election Day, and God only knows who will make a snafu and who will do the unthinkable thing of saying something that really turns off part of his electoral base. So it's one of these races. But if you like a dog-eat-dog, slap your opponent down politics, then this is the place to be in Kentucky. My own Kentucky home and Southern hospitality will not really exist too much between these two candidates. McConnell has already been able to do a lot better in real life than I thought he ever would, because he has kind of an unusual personality. Whether you like him or you don't, you would have to admit that he's kind of hauntingly snide in some of his replies, and maybe a little overconfident. Will this work for him again? It might. We'll have to see. I urge everyone to, watch these local races in the Senate, especially as the House, they've gerrymandered that the thing to death where nobody ever runs, in a realistic race. And until American politics straightens out that problem with the House and their districts, I think we're going to be in trouble anyway. And good luck will be here for a long time. So Mitch McConnell, the king of gridlock, who absolutely just won't do anything that might make Obama look good, we'll find out if that type of politics is going to play well at home or not. Used to be, candidates ran with the idea that they could bring home the bacon, so to speak. But in the last 2 or 3 election terms, it's been pretty obvious that the base wants red meat. And, for instance, on the Republican side, most of the Republican voters don't care whether or not Congress does anything or not. In fact, this Congress is the most do-nothing Congress that's ever happened as far as passing actual bills. Now, some people, their base, for instance, of the Republican Party, are cheering these guys and thinking it's great. But just think about it. They go to work now only 2 or 3 days a week, and they have more recesses than they have work days. It's just, I guess, if you don't want to show up at the office very much, it's a dream job. So will the people of America put up with this type of politics, or is this the type of politics they want? That's the question at this point when we take a look at these elections. And as I say, the Kentucky election, is a way off, but already C-SPAN and some of the political pundits are paying a lot of attention to it. And the reason, of course, is because Mitch McConnell is a figure that attracts attention with his tactics and some of his blunt statements. And we'll just have to see how it plays out. But that gives you a sample of what we're going to be looking forward to, folks, for over the next year or so. And if I'm Southern hospitality in Kentucky, forget it. It's going to be dog eat dog, and it's going to be a tough race. Now, a lot of people like that kind of politics. So perhaps we get what we deserve. Who knows? That's my opinion about the race in Kentucky at this point, is that it definitely is a toss-up, and that McConnell is going to have to campaign quite a lot to survive, and that you should not discount, in summary, you should not discount Kentucky for being in the South, because it does have a strong tradition of liberals in politics over the years. And much of the electorate, when you look at some of the polls, the public opinion polls, it's amazing that they are actually pretty close to some of the East Coast states in attitudes toward what government should do and should not do. So we will be watching Mr. McConnell and his latest challenger. Can a woman beat him in Kentucky? Here again, I talked to some of my friends in Louisville, and the gender problem doesn't seem to be as great there as it is some other places, so perhaps it might even be an asset.
At the Fancy Farm Picnic, the political speaking in the St. Jerome Parish. Take time to check that out. We put a lot of money and work into that, but very nice renovation we're doing on the front of the grounds. And now, I've heard over and over and over, this is an off year in politics. Sure don't look like an off year to me out here in the crowd. I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready to get some speaking going. Charlie, let's get a little background music going. kind of get y'all in the frame of mind for our next guest that's going to come forward. Does that ring a bell with any of you? The fella's going to come up here in a minute. He was born and raised on the opposite end of the Commonwealth, but nonetheless a very good end of the Commonwealth up in Pikeville, Kentucky. He graduated from Eastern Kentucky University, where he spent 16 years in the classroom. He has won numerous state and national awards in broadcast work and journalism. He has served honorably in the United States Navy. He was a DJ for a local rock station, he was telling me last night. He currently is the commentator for KET's longest-running political talk show, Comment on Kentucky. I would like to welcome my friend and host of the world-famous Show of Shows for Kentucky political junkies and pundits, my good friend, my advisor, my mentor, rock star and idol, Mr. Farrell Wellman. Would you please come forward? Now I'm going to present Farrell with a coin. Now Farrell, it's got heads on this side, right?
Yes, it does.
Larry Sabato from the University of Virginia, who...
Third annual Fancy Farm Picnic. For those of you who don't know me, I am Mark Wilson, and I serve as chairman of the political committee along with my lovely wife, Lori. Please give my wife, Lori, who does all the work, a big round of applause. I would also like to thank the remainder of our committee. This is a 13-month job to put on the political forum, and let's give the rest of our committee a round of applause. Thank you. We've had a change of guard over the Fancy Farm Picnic Committee, and Todd and Sharon Hayden have served very graciously for the last 12 years as chairman of the picnic. They're still helping out in different roles. And Daniel Burgess has now taken...
My first Fancy Farm Picnic was 1975. George Wallace was here. When Mark asked me to MC this year, I thought, yeah, sure. Off-year election won't be much of a crowd. But the real reason, even though I knew it'd be maybe a small crowd, was after more than 20 years covering it as a reporter, I wanted to see what the crowd looked like from up here. So I assume everybody's ready to have a good time? Are you going to be on your best behavior? That's what I thought. You know, the political speeches you're about to hear are really part of the fabric of Kentucky politics. It kicks off the political season in our state, and it's really a political boot camp, but with maybe better food. Thanks to the 2014 Senate race, though, Fancy Farm is the core of America's political universe today. Cannot underestimate how important the 2014 race is and how much attention it's gathering. That's why these speeches today will be shown on C-SPAN tonight, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Now, before we hear the featured speakers, the legislators who represent Fancy Farm in the State House and State Senate, Street, Republican leader Senator Mitch McConnell.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Farrell. Okay. Well, I want to thank St. Jerome. I want to thank St. Jerome for another incredible Fancy Farm. You're also well represented by Representative Richard Heath, State Senator Stan Humphreys, obviously Congressman Ed Whitfield, and Commissioner of Agriculture Jamie Comer is with us here today. We appreciate them all. But look, You know, before I get started, I want to say how nice it is to see Jerry Lundergan back in the game. Like the loyal Democrat he is, he's taking orders from the Obama campaign on how to run his daughter's campaign. They told him to make a pitch on the internet for the women's vote, and he sent a check to Anthony Weiner. Over the next 15 months, we're going to decide what kind of America we want to have, what kind of Kentucky we want to have. There are only two answers to this question: Barack Obama's vision for America or Kentucky's. You know, I've brought Kentucky's voice to Washington, and the Obama crowd doesn't like it. You see, Kentucky's voice is often the voice of opposition to the Obama agenda, and I'm proud of that. That's why every liberal in America is out to beat us next year. The liberals are just as the nanny state liberals decided you couldn't fish below the dams on the Cumberland River anymore. Well, I rounded up the troops. We all got together with Ed Whitfield and Rand Paul, and you can still fish below the dams. We stopped them. Back at the beginning of the year, they tried to raise taxes on every 99% of Kentuckians from a tax increase. They tried to bully conservatives over at the IRS, but we called them out. Now look, you can't get any of those things done from the back bench.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for coming out to sing.
With the highest percentage of the vote of any Democrat running for statewide office that year. She recently announced for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate. Maybe you received a call from her grandmother, Secretary of State Alison Lundergan-Grimes.
Kentucky. Now, I only have 6 minutes to speak today, and I got a great piece of advice from Senator Wendell Ford. He told me I could cut 2 minutes from my speech by using I instead of referring to myself as Alison Lundergan-Grimes. I admit Alison Lundergan-Grimes is a long name, but where else can you find a name with 5 vowels? Because it's such a long name, my grandmother and I decided we would do something about that. With your help, Kentucky, come January 2015, you can call me Senator. For this job because, unlike him, I haven't been in Washington, D.C. for 30 years. But do I really need to apologize for having more government experience than Rand Paul? Now, I know many of you had hoped to see Rand Paul here today, but he's spending this weekend with his loved ones, the Tea Party members in Iowa. Today is a really special occasion. It's not every fancy farm that the Republican nominee for United States Senate actually shows up. So please join me in giving a big rousing welcome to Matt Bevin. Now, Senator McConnell is here too. Now, he and I do have our differences, like when he voted to double Medicare premiums. If Senator McConnell had his way, his version of Kentucky health care for our seniors' grandmother would be to walk it off. Let's just tell it like it is. If the doctors told Senator McConnell that he had a kidney stone, he'd refuse to pass it. I'm glad Senator McConnell is here and that he actually stayed, because I know it has been a tough month for him. From the Republican caucus, the entire caucus going around him to accomplish filibuster reform, to Matt Bevin's announcement, to his chief of staff leaving this weekend. You know, recent polls show that Senator McConnell is the most unpopular senator amongst not just Democrats, but Republicans as well. You know what that means? After all these years, at least he's kept one campaign promise: to keep both parties coming together. The truth is, there's a reason that Senator McConnell is disliked not only by the voters of Kentucky, but by the entire United States. And that's because there is a disease of dysfunction in Washington, D.C. And after 30 years, Senator McConnell is at the center of it. Indeed, in his quest for power, he has left Kentucky and its citizens behind. And as long as he remains in Washington, D.C., D.C. will stand for dysfunctional capital. After years of being the leader of the Republican Party, the GOP, has come to stand for gridlock, obstruction, and partisanship. It seems our senior senator only understands the meaning of one word: stop. Well, Senator, you're voting time after time against increasing the minimum wage, all the while you increase your pay and quadruple your net worth. Stops now. Senator, your empty rhetoric about fighting for Kentucky coal while you vote against its workers and their retirees stops now. And Senator, you're failing to stand up for the good women of Kentucky when you vote against the Violence Against Women's Act, the Lilly Ledbetter Act, and the Paycheck Fairness Act. Stops now. And you're failing to realize the importance of labor, that it has literally lifted millions out of poverty. Stops now. Now, the Senator and I, we have two different views of public service. As we all know, he views public service as a carnival game of whack-a-mole. Well, I will tell you, I don't scare easy, and neither does the rest of Kentucky. After 30 years of failed leadership, it's time we have a United States Senator that unites Kentuckians, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, and helps to put Kentucky, not Washington, first. As your senator, I will continue to do what I have done as Secretary of State, and that's reach across the aisle, and I will not forget who I represent, and that is you. I will work so that every Kentucky woman gets equal pay for equal work. That's what the Kentucky women deserve, nothing less. That's what a Kentucky senator should be fighting for. I will fight to keep our jobs here and not send them overseas. That's what a Kentucky senator should be fighting for. And I believe in balancing our budget the right way, cutting spending while protecting Social Security and Medicare. That's what a Kentucky senator should be fighting for. Senator McConnell talks about Team Mitch. Well, Kentucky, I'm here to invite you to join Team Switch. Thank you. God bless each of you and the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
I can't wait till next year.